From the first section, September 2169 of the Common Era. Chapter 1. The Chilterns. Fitful red light surged over bare walls. Thania came half awake. In her dozing mind, an image track played of a school year's video feed from the day of the burning city, the screen overloading with the brutal light of the nuclear flash. Then the scene jumped. She was in her lab at university, her skin frying in the heat of Vonnie overload. She jerked awake, the dream pain resolving into the shock of the radar alarm shrilling under her skin. Then she and the other 3 women were jumping out of bed, throwing on their land and water gear, and scrambling for the amphibious craft. They sprinted out of the low bunker across the cracked old asphalt, Thania twisting her strong shoulders through the unfamiliar straps of her pack. The night bloomed into rolling orange and black as the second fuel tank went up. The troops piled into the craft, which lurched out into a landscape of black mud, lit by laceworks of fire. Thania joined the backup team on the big land and water craft, their mobile base. It was a clear night ahead, away from the blaze. The 2 lightweight crafts she'd learned to call ducks sped north up the Thames Channel, picking up a radar trace of the retreating raider. As scout, her brother Duncan would be on the front dock. Thania looked round. Everyone was bent to some task. She turned to the stocky woman who'd just finished handing out ammunition. "Freya, tell me what's going on." Corporal Ward looked up at Thania and smiled tightly, facial muscles flexing in the blaze of some stimulant. "Pure light duck with 6, maybe 7 in it, stripped a farm at Blueberry, then took out the Wantage fuel depot." Thania nodded. "What are we going to do?" "At some point they land to hide from us. We catch up with them and use our last few rockets. And then," Ward shrugged, "we shoot at them." She slapped at a mosquito on her neck and turned back to her work. Thania stayed standing, wide awake now. 18 hours ago she'd been undergoing her induction training and swallowing a gloopy sol of von Neumann seeds, fast ones that would grow under her skin into a transceiver of networked nanotubules. 3 days before that, she'd received her MD from Bristol University. And against her brother's express advice, but thrilled and inspired by Duncan's tales of service as a scout, she'd joined up as a medic in the same unit as him, Prince Seward's Wessex Specials. They'd given her very basic instruction in driving their main assault vehicle. "This is called a duck," said the instructor, "even in honour of its 20th century ancestor, the DUKW, of which this is basically a lighter, more efficient descendant, or through a lack of inspiration in the naming of military vehicles designed for a world of mud." He turned and looked at each of them, the battered steel of his prosthetic hand gleaming as it flexed. "You will learn to drive one. Wessex Specials are a multi-skilled elite." Half an hour later they cut their engines. A half moon was rising and Thania saw their 2 ducks up ahead and a dark hump of land forming a horizon in the cold light. Something flashed up there, and the distant crack of a weapon sounded, some small projectile that never reached its target. Her keen eyes picked out something moving over the horizon line, and she felt a rush of gratitude and a soft sudden ache in her knees. The 3 craft headed for the muddy beach and crunched up the slope, the old engines screaming. It was moon bright now, and as they moved cautiously up the hill, Thania could see down to their left the remains of a town shattered by war, ghostly stumps of buildings on a lip of land above the black water. She supposed it was Prince's Risborough and swallowed nervously. Her unit regarded the Chiltern archipelago to the north of there as pure light territory. Pursuit was easy. The duck they were following gouged up the soft turf, leaving massive muddy tracks on hard ground. and their infrared picked out its heat plume in the swathes of cloud shadow. As they crossed the rise of the land and began their descent, they could see the enemy craft clearly. It was obvious they were following a crippled vehicle. Ward passed Thania her binoculars, and she saw it veering about from a damaged track wheel. She swung the glasses round. Down there was Great Missenden, presumably where the raiders would have to hole up. At the bottom of the hill, the two ducks in the front started a cautious approach through the darkened main street of the little town. Everyone was aware that this could be an ambush, and Thania had a strong urge to use the toilet. Soon it started to look as if they were just pursuing a lone craft down an empty road. Right in the centre of the town, they saw the raiders' duck parked across the entrance of a big old red brick pub. They halted just as a volley of shots rang out from an upstairs window, gravel chips flying up from the road in front of them. Thania heard a grunted curse from the front vehicle. Someone hit. Their crews turned the two ducks side on and dove behind them, returning fire with their assortment of weapons. She saw Seward crouched behind the front vehicle with a rocket launcher, and then two of the rear crew dashed out, hugging the walls of the old buildings. She recognised Sergeant Scott, whom she'd met only a few hours before, just as the defenders turned their fire on her, and she spun, catching the momentum of the bullets in her body. Then Thania saw Seward stand up, fire a rocket and dive back behind the vehicle. With shock, she watched the front of the big pub disappear in a flash of flame. And that was it. The battle was over.